Good evening, everybody. Good day, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, whatever part of the day it is. I wish you a blessed night, blessed morning, blessed afternoon. Tonight, we thank you for your time and we welcome you to the program Healthy Me, Wealthy Me. And tonight, this program is the first program in its kind. And this Sunday and every Sunday, we are having a special friend of ours, a doctor, who will be there with us to educate us. And the program is called Healthy Me, Wealthy Me, to say that if you are healthy, you are wealthy. It is better to be in good health because health is very expensive. Whenever you are sick, it is a very expensive thing to maintain a condition, whatever illness or infirmity. So today we have Dr. Lincoln CARTY with us to discuss a very important subject. I will not introduce him. I will allow him to do his introduction. He is a well-experienced man, and Yahweh has blessed us with a special man like him to be on the program, to be with the ministry, Yahweh's Kingdom Lifestyle Ministry. And if you heard the word lifestyle, it's we are promoting a healthy family. We deal with the aspect of social life, the family, the health and spiritual aspect of a human being. So it's not all about preaching and preaching and preaching. So we touch every aspect of the human life. So tonight we thank you one more time for being with us, and I present to you Dr. Kati. You are welcome, Dr. Kati, and you are free to continue with the program. Thank you.
A very pleasant good night, everybody. And for those of you who are still in afternoon, I guess I would have to say good afternoon. And for those of you who are in the morning session, good morning. I am very pleased to thank Brother Bradley for giving me the opportunity to share with you. As he said, my name is Dr. Carty, Lincoln Carty, and I am Executive Director of Lummery Natural Health Consulting. At Lummery, we focus on three main things, as you can see on the screen there. We encourage people to empower your mind, to embrace your body, to enhance your body, and to embrace your life. That is your responsibility. And so no matter what we share with you, we cannot force you to do any of those three things, but we trust that whatever you learn would inspire you to once again empower your mind, to enhance your body, and embrace your life. Tonight, we want to share with you we want to share with you on the topic keys to cardiovascular disease prevention. Keys to cardiovascular disease prevention. And I just want you to know that the information we are sharing with you in this session is provided for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not intended as medical advice. We trust that whatever illness or disease you have, you would go to your primary care physician and they will indeed help you. But what we want to do here is to educate you about natural ways and means of taking care of your body. The wise man Solomon in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23 says, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." So your heart is the wellspring of life. Now, while the wise man Solomon is speaking about the mind or the conscience, we recognize that our physical heart is also the seat of life, because when that heart stops beating and the blood stops flowing to the various organs, cells, and systems and so on, the body dies. And so out of your physical heart is the wellspring of your life. And that is why it is so important to take care of your heart. In fact, a medical doctor, Dr. Joseph Califano, once said, "We must replace our prevailing ethic of expensive self-indulgence with an ethic of vigorous personal responsibility." He goes on to say, the choice is simple. Take increased responsibility or continue the wasteful sick care system with its staggering toll in dollars, wasted lives, and grief. So we understand that it is important to choose to take care of our bodies. Now, before we go any further, I want to define cardiovascular disease. So the definition, as you're seeing on the screen, says cardiovascular disease is a general term for encompassing heart attack, stroke, and other disorders of the heart and vascular system. It is also referred to as heart and blood vessel disease. So any disease that involves your heart, your blood vessels is a cardiovascular disease. There are lots of studies on the blood systems and the impact of various foods on our bodies. And major studies during the last 10 to 15 years indicate that diets that are high in saturated fats and cholesterol, which would consist of regular intake of red meats, dairy products, and eggs, all of those are directly correlated to the incidence of CVD, that's cardiovascular disease, and its complications, whereas a low saturated fat, a low cholesterol diet greatly lowers the risk of these diseases. So you see a juxtaposition here. Saturated fats and high cholesterol on the one hand increase your risk for cardiovascular problems, while low saturated fat and low cholesterol diet decreases your risk. So that's where you want to go. You want to go for low fat, low cholesterol diet. I want you to take a look at this picture. It might look like a simple graphic, but it's not just a simple graphic. That's a picture taken of the artery of a gentleman who was undergoing surgery. I will not put the picture on the name of the individual, but what you are seeing there is the artery cut open, and all of that yellowish, creamy stuff you are seeing there is fat inside of the artery. Believe it or not, that's the condition of an individual who had suffered a heart attack and had gone into surgery. And here is the actual surgery again taking place. And what you can see are the surgeons actually removing strips of fat. All of that yellow stuff you're seeing is fatty tissue being removed from where? His arteries. Imagine that. These two test tubes you're looking at represent the blood. In this test tube on the left, you would notice that there is the blood settling down here at the bottom. These are all of the platelets and the blood cells and so on at the bottom. And at the top is what is referred to as blood serum. So if you fall and bruise your skin, you know, sometimes you bruise your skin and what comes out is not blood. You see that clear liquid just oozing out. That's the blood serum, because the abrasion or the cut is not big enough to allow the cells to come out. And so you'll just see the serum. Now, this is what normal blood serum looks like. Over on the right, this is actually blood from the same gentleman who was undergoing surgery. What you notice here, again, all of the solid particles are settled, but you notice that what should be serum is actually something almost looking like a smoothie. That substance you're seeing up here is fat in the serum. So that fat will eventually layer the inside of the blood vessels. So think in terms of somebody who would have just eaten a meal of, say, some high-fat food like beef or pork or mutton, maybe some burgers, some fries, and all of those high-fat foods, when you consume those, that fat goes into the bloodstream. Now, I said to you that the fat goes into the blood vessel and it actually builds up on the walls of the blood vessel. So what you're seeing in this picture are two arteries cut open. The artery here on your left is a normal artery. And you would notice this, the little tunnel that the blood flows through is referred to as the lumen. You notice the lumen is nice and clear. So you have normal blood flowing through the lumen. But over here on the right, this is an artery that is narrowed by atherosclerosis. What has happened is that the plaque has been building up on the inside of the artery, as you can see here. Notice again, over on the left, the artery is nice and clear, nothing blocking it. But over here on the right, you can see the plaque building up here, and that causes a decrease in the flow of the blood. So right here, you can see a narrowing of the lumen. So not as much blood would be flowing through this blood vessel as would be flowing through the normal artery. As I said, this is an artery that is narrowed by the disease called atherosclerosis, okay? And so as you see at the bottom of the screen, the note says that a plaque may suddenly rupture. So this plaque here, this plaque that you're seeing here, can actually break off. That's what they mean by rupture. It could break off or tear open, causing a blood clot to form in the artery. And this sometimes results in a heart attack, or what is referred to as a myocardial infarction. So atherosclerosis commonly affects the coronary arteries. That is, those arteries that are actually going to the heart. The coronary arteries, they deliver blood to the heart muscle itself. And that is the biggest cardiovascular concern because it causes a great deal of limitation and chest pain. That chest pain is referred to as angina pectoris. So if you climb a flight of stairs, if you walk out in the wind blowing strongly against you, if you go for a little jog and you're feeling that pain in the chest, that could be angina pectoris that you are experiencing. Okay, so this diagram here actually shows you the progression of coronary heart disease. What happens over time? Now, if you look at the diagram here, across the base represents the age of the individual. We start from around the age of 10 and we go up to the age of 70. On the left side, you can see here is the percentage of opening of the artery. And by the way, this diagram comes from, it's a very old diagram, but quite current in terms of the information, from the book Positive Proof, How to Reliably Combat Heart Disease and Achieve Optimum Health Through Nutrition and Lifestyle. That's by Neil Nedley. And so what the doctors have found is that in children, the artery is wide open, nice and clear, no plaque, because children have not consumed enough fatty foods to impact the artery. But look at what happens by the time the individual gets to age 20. And I'm sure those of you who were teenagers, you remember your days of chicken and chips, the fries and so on. And lots of teenagers tend to go for the fast foods, chicken and chips, burgers, Coca-Cola and those things, packed with fats and sugars. And so the plaque begins to build up. And you notice not much of the lumen is taken in as yet, but as you get to age 40, you can see more plaque building up, and about 70% or so of the lumen is now is open, so that 30% of the lumen is closed as a result of the buildup of the plaque. By the time you get to age 60, notice the amount of plaque inside of that artery, and what should be a full lumen around here is just this tiny space here. So you would see only about 40% of the lumen is open. And that can give rise to what is referred to as coronary insufficiency, meaning an insufficient amount of blood is going to the heart muscle through the coronary artery. And that is why the individual experiences angina pectoris, that is the pain in the chest. Now, if nothing is done about that, a little further down the road, say about age 65 or so, an individual could suffer what is referred to as a myocardial infarction or a heart attack, because just about 20 to 30% of the artery is open. By the time the individual gets to age 70, you will notice about 20% or less of the artery is open. As you can see here, the lumen is just this tiny area right here. And so what happens is that the individual suffers from what is referred to as ischemic cardiomyopathy, meaning a heart attack that results in death. Okay, so that's a fatal heart disease. So you notice there are no symptoms, say from age 10, maybe up to age of 55 or so. But by the time the individual gets to age 60, moving on, then you begin to experience the symptoms of coronary insufficiency, which could lead to a myocardial infarction and then to a fatal heart attack, which is ischemic cardiomyopathy. Okay? What are some of the areas of the body that are impacted by reduced blood flow? So let us look at some of the common atherosclerotic sites in the body. First, we start at the head. So here is our brain. The cerebral arteries take blood to the brain. If these cerebral arteries are blocked, then the individual suffers a stroke. In addition to the cerebral arteries, the carotid arteries also take blood via the neck to the brain. If the carotid arteries are blocked, one could also suffer a stroke. So whenever the blood vessels going to the brain are blocked and blood flow to the brain stops, then the individual suffers a stroke. Now, the stroke could impact the left side or the right side. It could impact speech. It could impact motion. Just depends on which area of the brain the blood flow has been decreased from. Okay? And as we said earlier, the coronary arteries or the carotid arteries, they take blood to the heart. And so if those are impacted, then an individual could suffer a heart attack. The aorta, if the aorta is blocked, you can also have, it could also result in angina pectoris or aneurysms later on, because remember the aorta is that large blood vessel that takes blood out of the heart to the rest of the body, okay? So the coronary arteries go into the heart. If they are blocked, you can have heart problems. If the aorta is blocked, then you can have problems in other areas of the body. Now we come down to the kidney. If the renal arteries are blocked, then one could suffer kidney failure. So there could be aneurysms there in that area. The femoral arteries, which take blood to the lower limbs, if the femoral arteries are blocked, then you could also suffer aneurysms. You could suffer what is called intermittent claudication, or what people usually refer to as poor circulation. And poor circulation in the leg could actually result in gangrene, because you can have like the toes and the foot. If the blood vessels to that part of the body are totally shut off, then there is no oxygen going to the toes or to the foot. No nutrients are going, and so the tissue would begin to die, and that is how gangrene sets in. And in most cases, when gangrene sets in, the only alternative is to amputate the leg. And we don't want you to get to that point. That is why we share with you the keys to prevent cardiovascular problems. Okay? I just mentioned that blood flow, loss of blood flow to any part of the body could also result in lack of oxygen, because remember, the red blood cells take oxygen to the various parts of the body. And so there are a number of what we refer to as hypoxic diseases, which could result as the flow of oxygen via the blood to the cells and tissues is limited. Hypoxemia is referred to as oxygen starvation. And so we mentioned angina, which is the pain you feel in the chest. So if not enough oxygen is going to the heart muscle to give it the fuel to work, you're going to suffer from angina, you're going to suffer from a heart attack, you'll suffer from a stroke, and then some individuals suffer from senility, that is loss of cognitive functions. dementia, um, what's the guy's name? Alzheimer's, right? All of those are problems that occur as a result of loss of blood flow and oxygen going to the brain. And then individuals might also suffer hearing and vision loss as a result of limited oxygen going to the ear and to the eyes and to those parts of the brain which impact hearing and vision. So you see, it's very important that you have a good flow of blood going to the various cells of tissues in order to carry that important fuel, oxygen, to the tissues. Now, there are a number of risks to the heart, and the risks vary. What I'm going to do using this diagram here is to show you how the risk increases over time. For example, if you look on the left side of the diagram, you notice that the risk is very low when it comes to gender. In fact, we are told that males tend to be more at risk for heart problems than females. Family history is a low risk factor. Why? Because science has found that only about 5% of cardiovascular problems are as a result of heredity or genetics. So the bulk of it is based on lifestyle. Hence, we go up and we recognize that age is a factor, but is not as big a factor as drug abuse, alcohol, or smoking. So that the smoker is at a much higher risk of developing cardiovascular problems, say, than the aged person. Okay, and there are some individuals who start smoking at a very young age. So if you start smoking at a very young age, it means that your risk is going to be greatly increased. Obesity is also a risk factor. If we go over on the right side of the diagram, obesity is a risk factor. High cholesterol is even more of a factor because, in fact, that is one of the reasons why individuals become obese. Hypertension and stress are two very high risk factors for cardiovascular problems. So you want to prevent high blood pressure, and you want to keep yourself away from stressful situations. You want to stay at peace as much as possible. It is no wonder that our dear friend Yeshua, when he was leaving, he says, "My peace I leave with you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you." He wants us to be at peace. He doesn't want us to be stressed out because he knew exactly what would happen if we allow stress to be a part of our lives. Now, there are some risk factors which you can change, and there are other risk factors which you cannot change. So let's look first at those risk factors which you cannot change. There is nothing you can do about family history. So that if you are genetically predisposed to cardiovascular problems such as heart disease, stroke and heart attacks, it may come, but as we said earlier, you would have a 5% chance of developing the problem. Increased age is a factor you cannot change. It doesn't matter how many longevity pills you take. It doesn't matter how many longevity pills you take. There is nothing that will prevent you from growing 1 minute older, 1 hour older, 1 day older, 1 week older, 1 year older. Your aging will happen. As you can see, my age is showing in the color of the hair I have on my face and head. Another thing which you cannot change is your gender. Oh yeah, there are lots of individuals who experiment with the body. But our Creator, Yahweh, He made us fearfully and wonderfully. And when He made us, He said, that's very good. So even if you go to a surgeon and you cut off one part and you add on another part, that will not change what the Creator designed. He designed males to be men and females to be women. That will not change, okay? And as I said earlier, males are at greater risk for cardiovascular problems. Now, what are the things you can change? One, you can definitely change your food habits. The choice is yours. Nobody forces you to eat the beef and the mutton and the pork and the fast foods like the burgers and the chips and the tomato ketchups and whatever, you name it. Nobody forces you to use them. You do that yourself. You can change your physical inactivity. You can get up off the couch and say, okay, I'm going to just leave the television set for a while. I need to get on the move. In fact, just yesterday morning, I took part in a walk on almost 5 miles. It was to celebrate Caribbean Wellness Day. And I like to practice what I preach. So when I tell people they have to get out and move, I go out and move too. And I'm pleased to report to you guys tonight that the only people who got in ahead of me was some of the joggers and runners. In fact, I walked all the way and actually passed some of the runners on the way. Oh yes. So I'm proud to say that. I try to stay fit. Another thing you can change is smoking and the immoderate use of alcohol. So immoderate alcohol consumption. Those are things that you can change as an individual. And let me just share my testimony with you, because I'm not going to sit here tonight and pretend that I was never involved. Well, I never smoked. I pulled on a cigarette once when I was about 16 or 17, and the effect of that said to me, that is not for you. But I drank. And when I found out towards the end of 1979, 1977 into early 1978, when I learned about the effects of alcohol on the body, I came home from that panel discussion. In fact, I was actually on the panel. So I had to do the research on the effects of alcohol on the body. And while I'm doing the research, I am drinking. And that night, after that panel discussion, I said to myself, if I am telling people these things about the impact of alcohol on their bodies, and I'm consuming it, then that's an injustice to myself. And I drove my car from that seminar that night straight home, went into my kitchen, opened my cupboard. That was in January of 1978. That was like 42 years ago. And I poured 3 big 1-gallon bottles of alcohol down the drain. Yes, I used to make my own. But badly, you know what they call it, right? Yes, I made my own. It was very strong. But in January of 1978, 42 years ago, I poured that alcohol, and that was the end of that for me. And I think that is one of the reasons why you look at my face now at the age of 68 and you can still see youth. So I thank Yahweh for getting me to that point early o'clock in my life. Okay, so let me now introduce to you 3 keys to preventing heart disease. 3 very simple keys. What are they? Key number 1, eat smart. Eat smart. Key number 2, exercise regularly. And the key number 3, supplement wisely. Supplement wisely. And we could end the presentation here because those are the 3 keys, right? But I believe you need to know a little bit more. You want me to expand on them. And so let me, for the next few minutes, try my best to expand on what those keys mean. What do we mean by eat smart? You see, there are lots of folks who eat large amounts of high-calorie foods. That is, foods that are high in saturated fats. And diets of this kind are associated with high levels of cholesterol. And if they are associated with high levels of cholesterol, then there will be high risk of suffering from a cardiovascular disease or heart disease. This diagram here, you will notice it says sources of dietary cholesterol. Over on the left side, cholesterol is found only in animal foods. Now, let me just put a little caveat in here because there are one or two exceptions when it comes to plant foods, but we'll come to that in a bit. But look at the list here. I'm sorry, not the list. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And what you can see here would be the chicken, the bacon, the eggs, the cheese, the milk, and so on, the burgers, and so forth. You see all of that. So meat products will give you the cholesterol if you need it. But the body does not need to get cholesterol from an external source because the body makes its own cholesterol. Okay? So fruits, vegetables, grains, and nuts, they contain no cholesterol. No cholesterol. Except for, say, at least two exceptions. Avocado. I'm sure you're familiar with the avocado pear. And you know that it has fat, okay? It has cholesterol, but it has the HDL, or the good kind of cholesterol, what we call the high density lipoprotein type cholesterol. Palm oil also has cholesterol. And again, that's the good cholesterol. So you would not get the saturated fat from those. Saturated fats do not come from plants, they come from animals, okay? So just to acknowledge that fact as we move along. So as I said, eating too much high calorie food is a risk factor for obesity. Remember we said that earlier when we were looking at the risk factors. So as you look at this little chain here, you would see heart attack, high blood pressure, diabetes, gallbladder, cancer, all of those are part of the chain that you are involved in as soon as you start increasing your weight. So that obesity is linked to every one of those conditions: heart attack, high blood pressure, diabetes, gallbladder problems, and cancer. Middle-aged men who are significantly overweight have about 3 times the risk of a fatal heart attack as those of normal weight. Now, why, somebody might be asking, why is it the risk is greater for men than women? I have come up with a conclusion based on what I have heard coming out of the mouths of some men. I remember there was one gentleman who said to me, if my wife don't put 2 or 3 different kind of relish in my food, I ain't eating it. So men tend to like a lot of relish. and most men go for the steak, you know, the beef and the pork and the mutton and so on. You know, they don't go too much for fish. They want the high fat foods. And you see the wives oblige. And so they feed the men, and they do not realize that they're killing them with love. You know, they think, oh, my husband wants a lot of relish, so I'm going to give him the meat. But ladies, those of you who are listening, understand. You need to cut back and let him understand why you're cutting back, okay? At the bottom of the screen, you may not see it, but I put it there to remind me to tell you that salt and alcohol are also negative factors when it comes to cardiovascular diseases. That is why some of you, if you start developing hypertensive conditions, your medical practitioner might say to you, you know, you need to go down on the salt. You see, because the high sodium impacts the heart and blood vessels, okay? So how do we reduce heart attack? Through eating. One, you want to consume nutritionally adequate diet from the various food groups. Most of you will be familiar with the food group pyramid. So you take a look at the pyramid and you make sure you take, you know, a little from each of the various groups. You want to avoid overweight by watching your intake of calories, because this is the problem. When you consume food, the food has an energy value, which is referred to as a calorie, or in some instances, it's referred to as joules. Now, you're taking calories, and you're supposed to burn those calories during the course of the day. But if you're taking in more calories than you're burning through activity, then what happens to the excess calories? The excess calories are stored, and they're stored as what? And so the fat builds up, and you eventually become obese. So you want to increase your exercise, you want to increase your activity to burn those calories, or you want to reduce the amount of calories you consume. And then you want to limit the amount of fat and sugar, alcohol, and salt. Okay, continue. You want to increase your intake of vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, cereals, good stuff. So the young lady there, she's enjoying a nice salad, right? And every so often, I like to just take a good salad, okay? And then you want to include sources of what we refer to as polyunsaturated fatty acid, okay, or PFF, polyunsaturated fatty acid. And one of the most important ones is a fatty acid called linoleic acid, okay, linoleic acid. So when you go to purchase your foods like your margarines and your butters and so on, if you do not see linoleic acid on the label, leave it alone. That's high cholesterol products you're using, okay? So to end here, we say watch what you eat and improve your lifestyle. So just to recap, you want to eat less fat and be sure to include polyunsaturated vegetable oils, polyunsaturated vegetable oils. And then if you're going to eat flesh, then you want to eat fish or poultry instead of the red meats, okay? In fact, I usually say to people when I'm doing my nutrition seminars, I usually say to people, if you're going to eat flesh, try and limit it to fish or eggs. And if you're using egg, go mostly for the white of the egg. If you can get rid of the yolk, because the yolk is where all the cholesterol is. So you use the white of the egg, you're getting your protein, okay? And you get a much better type of protein from fish than you'd get from even poultry or meats. And if you're going to use fish, then I would say to people, use the silver fish. Like for those of us in the Caribbean, we say sprat or ballyhoo, the flying fish, you know, the silver fish, right? The blue runners, the salmon, the tuna, and so on, the halibut, okay, codfish. Those silver fish, those are the better fish to use. Then you want to eat more vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts. You want to balance your calories, as I said, with your physical activity. So make sure you burn the calories that you're taking in. Okay, watch your salt and do not use alcohol. The second key is exercise. Exercise regularly. Someone said that inactivity or a sedentary lifestyle is regarded as one of the features of our society, which in addition to such factors as smoking, a rich diet, obesity, and stress, contributes to coronary heart disease, stroke, and other circulatory disorders. And that is a fact. You may not realize it as you sit at the television or you lay down on the couch reading a book day in and day out, but it builds up, okay? Deaths and disability due to heart attack or coronary heart disease are less frequent in people who exercise regularly. So, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The choice is yours. You can get on a bicycle if you're not afraid of the wheels and take a ride around the neighborhood. Or you can go to the gym and you don't have to bulk up, but you can do exercises in the gym that are geared to toning of the muscles, you see. So you don't have to be a bodybuilder to go to the gym. In fact, when I was a long distance runner, I would go to the gym. And I used to focus. So I was slim, skinny, yes. And the guys would be wondering, what are you coming in here for? But when the fellas finish their leg press, they might finish on say 200 pounds, and that's where I'm starting my warm-up on the leg press, you see. But my Olympic dream did not come. Um, 2 years before I went to Olympic, I had a bad accident, and that was the end of my running career. And so you can do like what I used to do here and go for a jog, all right? I can't run, but I can run my mouth. And so that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, what are some of the benefits of physical fitness? Because it does have its benefits. One, you have a feeling of well being. Why is that? Because as you get fit, there are some chemicals in the brain called endorphins. You produce more endorphins the more fit you are. And so you would not suffer from depression and, you know, uh, mood swings and so on. You'll always be on top of the world. Okay? And so that's why it's important that you get fit. You want to feel well. And then you want to have more energy. Okay, as I said to you, yesterday I did that walk, and when I got back in, man, the lady with the megaphone, she was getting on, right? Dr. Cathy reaching first of the walkers and so on, blah blah blah. Yeah, it was a good feeling, you see. And so it's good to be fit. Okay, not just for competition, but for your own, your own mental and emotional self. As you say here, the next point, it relieves mental and emotional tension. Okay, that's what physical exercise does. You have better control of your weight, and you have an enhanced ability to cope with the physical demands of work or recreation. Okay, I retired twice, and guess what? I'm still working. So I have a job to go to tomorrow morning because my father told me to occupy until he comes. And so occupy for me means changing my tires. So I've changed my tires twice and I'm on my third trip. All right? Yeah. Okay. Um, so, okay. Now, for those of you who might be thinking, oh, yes, okay, I agree, Dr. Cathy, I'm going to go tomorrow and start. I want to just share some warnings with you. You need medical clearance if you have A, pains in the middle of your chest when you exert yourself, or even after eating. Some people, after they finish eating a meal, they could feel that pain in the chest. That is because the arteries are being blocked to the heart, okay? As I said earlier, if you're walking in the cool wind and the exertion of walking in the wind causes chest pain, please, you see your doctor before exercise, before starting an exercise program. If you have blood relatives who have had heart attacks under the age of 55, if you had a previous heart problem or diabetes or high blood pressure, if you had bone or joint or any other medical problems that might worsen with exercise, you need medical help. Here are some other reasons why you need medical clearance. If you are 20 to 30 pounds overweight, you need to get medical clearance before you start on an exercise program. Maybe you have a dietitian or a nutritional consultant who could help to put you on a weight loss program and work you through that. If you smoke over 30 packs of cigarettes per day, you need to get medical clearance before you start that program because your lungs could be impacted and that could determine the amount of oxygen you take in, and so you would want to make sure that you're good to go. If you're over 50 years of age and have engaged in little or no physical activity for more than 6 months, you need to get medical clearance before you start an exercise program. If you climb one flight of stairs and you're out of breath, again, you need medical clearance. So all of those are reasons why you might need to see your doctor first before you start an exercise program. And I have a note here that I want to read for you at the bottom of the screen. It says, any person with significant cardiovascular disease should have a program prescribed by a physician. So once you have a heart problem, please ensure that your physician prescribes your program. And it would be better to go to a heart specialist for something like that. Okay? What are some of the best activities to promote cardiovascular fitness? Here are some examples. Walking. As I said earlier, I can't run anymore, but I walk. And so I am not depressed that I cannot run. Yes, there was that time during the months after the accident, I was so depressed. The accident happened in 94 on the 17th of October. And by the time the new year started in 95, when everybody was out training for sports and I'm recognizing that I can't run anymore, I can play football, volleyball, basketball, lawn tennis, table tennis. Yes, anything with a ball I used to play except netball. I did learn to play netball just to prove that I could play it, but I never carried it any further than that because netball is for the ladies. And so, you know, I got so depressed that I started even planning my suicide. But praise Yah, he sent me a message via the television that we all have a purpose. And when I recognized that there was purpose to my life, I went and sought medical assistance. And here I am today, 26 years later, still sharing and blessing the lives of many, I hope. So walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, skipping rope, all of those are activities that you can engage in that will help to promote your cardiovascular fitness. There might be other activities, but I'm just naming a few. And these are, as far as I'm concerned, the more important ones, okay? Walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, rope skipping. I almost told you how long I skip rope one day. But then you might say, but this guy, he's so conceited with himself. He like to brag, you know, but you know, people skip rope and while you're skipping, you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? I counted up to 1,775 before I stopped. 1,775. And I think I stopped out of boredom. That was the level of fitness I had in those days. And I did that while I was on campus down in Barbados. Yeah, that was a few, not a few, that was many years ago. Okay, so how often should you exercise? A minimum of at least 3 sessions per week, evenly distributed. How long? About 15 to 30 minutes. And you can do it longer if you're very fit. During the week, because I have to go to work, I walk for about 30 minutes at mornings. And then on Sunday, I go up to about 50 minutes to an hour. Okay? Um, but during those competition walks, we usually take it to like about an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and 15 minutes, depending on how long the walk is. How intensive? The best guideline is your own heart rate, okay? And you have a professional monitoring your heart rate, especially if you are just starting out. Okay, so we come now to key number 3, supplement wisely. Why is supplementation one of the keys? Simply because we do not get optimum nutrients from the foods we eat today. Why? Because for many years, farmers have been harvesting the crops and we are eating and taking the nutrients from the soil. And not every farmer is diligent enough to put back all of the nutrients in the soil that those plants took out. You follow me? Right? Just nod your head, even Brother B or somebody else, you know, that I can see that you're following. So therefore, you cannot assume that every sweet potato you buy, every slice of pumpkin you eat, every carrot that you use contains all of the nutrients your body needs. And that is one of the reasons I encourage supplementation. And I do supplement myself. So dietary supplementation with antioxidants is a very important part of a healthy exercise regime. Antioxidants help to get rid of the toxins from the body. As those toxins build up, the lactic acid builds up, other toxins build up, they slow down your metabolism, cause you to become sluggish, and so you need those antioxidants. One very important antioxidant is vitamin E. And so vitamin E is effective in lowering the oxidative stress reactions of exercise. So one of the things you'd want to do is to supplement with vitamin E. In fact, I usually recommend a combination which I refer to as ACE. That is ACE, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, ACE. So if you're thinking of a multivitamin, make sure that you have vitamins A, C, and E in there, along with some zinc and selenium and so on. But I'm just zeroing in on 3 main ones. So I mentioned vitamin E. The second one I want to mention is an enzyme. It's a coenzyme called coenzyme Q10. You see, as you can see in the note here on the board, the mechanical function of a failing heart can be reversed by providing optimal nutrition to regenerate the damaged heart. And one of the best nutrients for strengthening and regenerating the heart is coenzyme Q10. In fact, there are individuals who are on statins for um, cholesterol problems and so on. If you're on statins, I would recommend that you use coenzyme Q10, okay, to counteract the ill effects of those statins that you're using, okay, coenzyme Q10. Now, here in the Caribbean, we have what is referred to as the Caribbean Islands Health Initiative. And I am part of that health initiative because we are promoting a very important supplement. Some of you may have seen this flyer. I have been sending it around via WhatsApp. It asks a very important question. Can optimal health and performance be a few stirs away? And the answer is yes, if you can harness the power of nitric oxide therapy. You see, nitric oxide therapy can do a number of things. It can reverse diabetic complications. It can return your blood pressure to normal for those who are hypertensive. It could restore sexual function, especially for those guys who are experiencing a little, problems as you get older. You could realize improved cognitive function. In fact, if started earlier on nitric oxide therapy, you will find that your cognitive function, say if you start around the age of 30s, 40s, your cognitive functions will greatly increase. Because it is as you get older that you tend to lose the cognitive abilities. In fact, most people who you see develop dementia, Alzheimer's, and you name them, they don't just develop those problems in the 60s. In fact, it takes about 20 years for the symptoms to actually show. So somebody who presents with dementia today would have started deterioration of the brain about 20 years before that, okay? And that is one of the reasons why nitric oxide therapy is so important, because it helps to replace the nitric oxide in the body so that you can clean out those the blood vessels, especially the endothelium of the blood vessels, and enrich your life as a result of that. Okay, there's some information there, my email address and website and so on. Okay, but let's move on to some more information on nitric oxide therapy. We say here, eliminating heart disease by harnessing the power of nitric oxide therapy. And the product which we use for that is a product referred to as Proarginine Plus. Proarginine Plus. Now, it is a simple but powerful way to naturally address your health concerns. And we mentioned a few of them here: high blood pressure, diabetic complications, ED or poor sexual health, poor wound healing, lack of energy. Yes, this is good for athletes as well because it helps to improve their physical performance. It helps to increase your blood flow because what it does is it helps to get rid of that plaque buildup in the endothelium of the blood vessels. And then, as I said, it aids in cognitive function. Now, Proarginine Plus is the highest quality L-arginine supplement. You see, L-arginine is the main supplement in Proarginine Plus that is used to build that nitric oxide in the body. But it does not work as efficiently by itself. And so other nutrients are added to it. And that's why the product is called Proarginine Plus, because it is the L-arginine supplement plus some other nutrients, okay? And so how nitric oxide therapy can naturally address heart disease in the Black population. I do have a video out that my colleague, Dr. Dan Hammer, he narrated that video. And so you can have access to that video. In fact, I can get it to Brother Bradley. I think I may have sent that video to him already. I'm not quite certain. I may have sent it to him. So, he can just WhatsApp you that video, or you can get it on YouTube as well. Okay? So, okay, I'm just playing the video for you.
which includes an increased risk for both diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Now, I'd like to highlight several major cardiovascular health issues so that you can see how the proper nitric oxide therapy could be beneficial. Let's start with high blood pressure because it's the number one risk factor for strokes and heart attacks, as well as one of the leading causes of atherosclerosis that contributes to endothelial dysfunction. As your vascular system narrows, this increases the resistance to blood flow, causing an elevation in blood pressure. To counter this effect, you need to reduce this resistance. Nitric oxide does this by relaxing the smooth muscle of your vascular wall, which lowers the resistance to blood flow. For many, this one simple step helps to return their blood pressure back to the normal range. The next major health concern is diabetes. This is a huge issue for the Black population because 60% more Blacks are affected when compared to whites. As we discussed earlier, high blood sugar levels cause direct damage to the lining of your vascular system, and most diabetic complications are a result of this cumulative damage over time. However, when you increase your production of nitric oxide, you begin to initiate reparative mechanisms that begin to heal this damage. This restores more of your endothelium back into a healthy tissue, and if properly nourished, then you can continue to increase the nitric oxide levels in your bloodstream. This improves blood flow and continues this healing process, which helps most diabetics naturally address their cardiovascular health concerns, one of which is reducing your risk for having a stroke. This is critical when you understand the following sobering statistics. Blacks are twice as likely to die from a stroke as whites. The rate of having a first stroke is almost double that of whites. And one half of all Black women will die from either a stroke or heart disease. There are three keys to substantially reducing your risk for a stroke. They are controlling blood pressure, preventing blood clots, reversing endothelial dysfunction. Nitric oxide therapy addresses each one of these issues, which brings us back to the question, why is nitric oxide so important to your cardiovascular health? And the answer is three key benefits. First, nitric oxide relaxes the smooth muscle of the vascular wall, causing vasodilation for improved blood flow. This is extremely beneficial to anyone with high blood pressure. In fact, helping your endothelium produce higher levels of nitric oxide is a natural way to bring your blood pressure back into the normal range. The second key benefit of nitric oxide is that it keeps blood platelet cells from sticking together. This helps to naturally reduce the risk for strokes or heart attacks. And the third key benefit is that when your nitric oxide levels are high enough over a long enough period of time, it can initiate reparative mechanisms to heal the damage done to the endothelium. When it comes to optimizing the ability of the enzymes of your endothelium to produce higher levels of nitric oxide, the following three ingredients are key: L-arginine, L-citrulline, and vitamin D3. L-arginine is always the first and most important ingredient. And while L-arginine can be found in the food you eat, the easiest method to make sure you're consuming enough of this amino acid is to use a daily nutritional supplement that contains pure, free-form L-arginine that's also pharmaceutical grade. For most people, the use of L-arginine by itself is not enough. The conversion of L-arginine to nitric oxide only provides a 2-hour window of improved nitric oxide production. Then within 4 to 6 hours, most people are back to their baseline levels. This results in a temporary increase in blood flow, but not long-lasting benefits. If you want to optimize your production of nitric oxide, then you must combine the L-arginine with L-citrulline. This amino acid is metabolized to yield more L-arginine to enhance the ability of the enzymes of your endothelium to produce higher amounts of nitric oxide over a much longer period. Here's the metabolic pathway. And as you can see by the red circle, L-citrulline is key to keeping this nitric oxide production going. And the only good natural food source for L-citrulline is watermelon. Unfortunately, 60% of the L-citrulline is contained in the rind portion, which most people typically throw away. So unless you juice the entire watermelon, you're better off getting a pharmaceutical-grade L-citrulline supplement, which is also free-form. Free-form means that there are no molecules like malate attached to the L-citrulline. The next key ingredient is vitamin D3 because it supports healthy cardiovascular function and inflammatory response. And increasing the vitamin D levels in your bloodstream addresses the second genetic predisposition in the Black population. There are numerous clinical studies that show how increasing your vitamin D levels in your bloodstream can have a profound benefit in helping to prevent diabetic and cardiovascular complications. Finally, let's talk about ED, or erectile dysfunction in men. There are two forces at work, vasodilation and vasoconstriction. For a man to have an erection, he needs nitric oxide to start and maintain the vasodilation side of the equation. If his nitric oxide levels are too low, no erection. If his nitric oxide levels are reduced, then he can most likely start the erection but not maintain it. And the reason why is this counterbalancing force, which is vasoconstriction. Without this, men would have an erection all day long, which would be both embarrassing and uncomfortable. The way Viagra and Cialis work is that they use a chemical to disable the vasoconstriction side of the equation. This works until a man's nitric oxide levels get so low that they can no longer create the needed vasodilation. This means drugs like Viagra don't address the underlying cause, which for most men is endothelial dysfunction and lack of sufficient nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide therapy can help address this issue by optimizing nitric oxide production. This leads to increasing baseline levels of nitric oxide, which can then initiate repair mechanisms to heal damage to the endothelium. This returns more of your endothelium back into a healthy, functioning tissue, producing more nitric oxide. For Black men, the result will be more morning erections like they had when they were younger. Now, one final item before we end this video. Dr. CARTY and I get asked all the time, is there a product that can help me restore my nitric oxide levels? And the answer is there are hundreds of products, but our product of choice is Pro Arginine Plus from Synergy Worldwide. Here's why. It is the only L-arginine supplement recognized by the medical community. It's been listed in the physician's desk reference for 6 straight years. And the exact first line quote is, Pro Arginine Plus is the highest quality L-arginine supplement in the world, end of quote. Additionally, Pro Arginine Plus is the only clinically proven L-arginine supplement in the marketplace. It's been clinically proven to produce higher levels of nitric oxide than L-arginine alone. But more importantly, it's been clinically proven to prevent vascular inflammation in 2 very specific ways. Finally, we believe quality assurance is important. Pro Arginine Plus is manufactured by Nature's Sunshine Products at their facility in Spanish Fork, Utah. The facility is NSF certified. The NSF pure assurance that the product has been tested by one of the most respected independent certification organizations in existence today. Additionally, this is a TGA certified facility. The TGA stands for the Therapeutic Goods Association of Australia, which has even more stringent standards. From start to finish, Pro Arginine Plus must pass 262 verified quality assurance standards before it's approved and released for human consumption. likes to say, we don't guess, we test, we guarantee. Because of this, Synergy Worldwide gives you a full 90-day money-back guarantee on the purchase of their product. If the use of Proaxin Plus interests you, then please contact Dr. Lincoln Carty. His contact information is on the screen. You can call or email him. His goal is to help Black people use nitric oxide therapy to naturally address their cardiovascular health concerns. Thanks for listening, and please share this video with others. Together, we can help our loved ones use nitric oxide therapy to naturally address most cardiovascular health concerns.
Okay, thank you very much for watching. And as I said, I know you might forget some of the things on the video, so you can get your own copy. You can either get a copy from Brother Bradley. I think I sent you the video, right, Brother Bradley? Or if not, I will send
Yes,
it to
yes,
you.
yes. I have the link and I posted it on
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. That is so good. Okay, so
posted on the page. But we have a question from Facebook.
yeah, so that's where we are now. As you can see, we are on the slide which says questions.
Yes,
You
and
know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So the presentation itself is finished, and so the floor is now open for your questions. I know you might want things clarified, or you might want additional information. So you ask your questions, and I'll try my best to answer.
yeah, we have one question from Facebook, and the person is saying, how long is the nitric oxide therapy to reverse diabetes? So, in other words, this person wants to know how long will it take to reverse diabetes?
Okay, Proagenine Plus is a natural supplement. It's a food. And so it will not work like a pill. Okay, the person mentioned diabetes, so take metformin, for example. Well, you know, metformin will not cure diabetes. It will only help to control it so that one could be on metformin for the rest of their life. When it comes to Proagenine Plus, however, its action on the blood system will depend on individuals. Because in naturopathy or in natural medicine, there is no one size that fits all. Different individuals have different experiences. For example, one person might be diabetic for a year, another person might be diabetic for 20 years. Who will be helped quicker by nitric oxide therapy? Most definitely the individual who has been diabetic only for a year. You follow me? So that if it takes a long, long time to develop a problem and you're using a natural product to fix it, then the time would vary per individual. So that I cannot say, well, okay, you'll have your problem fixed in a week, 2 weeks, a month, or even 6 months. But the point is, as you continue to take the product, you will see improvement. And I should say that um, there are other means of reversing diabetes. In fact, just last night, I was on doing a Zoom presentation with some folks in Canada on diabetes reversal, and I shared with them a number of means of reversing diabetes. So maybe one of these days we could do that presentation with you guys as well. Okay.
Okay, I think the question was answered, but I will ask. I believe she's still viewing. That's Sister Magali. Can the supplement be taken with diabetic medication? That's our other question. Can the supplement be taken with diabetic medication?
I think I just said in my answer to the last question that Proagenine Plus is food. It's not a medicine. You notice all of the products in it. You recognize L-arginine, L-citrulline. What are those? Those are amino acids, right? And then you have the vitamin D3, and you have the pomegranate supplement, I mean, extracts and so forth. So that we are talking about giving you food, but in supplemental form. The same thing happens when you take vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin E in food, because the vitamins come in our foods, okay? So that there should be no no negative interaction between the Proagenine Plus and your diabetic medication. In fact, I would recommend to that individual to encourage Brother Bradley to request that diabetes reversal presentation, and you will see based on that presentation that very soon you may not have any need to take diabetic medication. Okay,
Well,
especially if you are type 2 diabetic, because type 2 diabetes can be reversed. Type 1 diabetes is usually a genetic problem, and as I said earlier, you know, genetic problems you just can't change because it's there in the genes. You'll just have to work with it. But if that person is a type 2 diabetic, then that person can be helped, definitely.
well, Doc, you are welcome, to do the presentation. So we would be happy to have this presentation. So
Thank you very much.
if it could be the next week, it's welcome. No problem.
Okay, no problem at all.
Yes, I believe she said that I am interested in the diabetes reversal presentation. And indeed, we are all interested, and it will be done. So whenever
Okay,
Doc,
so we could do that one next week.
okay, no problem. Praise Yahweh. So next week, um, no problem. And she said, yes, type 2. Great. Yes.
Okay, right, right.
Yeah,
So,
but then I have a question. It is
yes.
an interesting question. She bring up these questions came up. If you are taking the medication and you are taking in the supplements, will it not affect the let's say the progress? How can you how are you able to assess the progress that the supplement is doing? How can you say, hey, this is by the improvement is by the because of the supplement, or the improvement is because of the medication? How I believe, I want to believe if you would take one at a time, or maybe one on its own, it would have been better. What do you think?
Okay. Now, um, I guess that's a situation that you'd have to work out with your medical practitioner. But let me explain something. If you're diabetic and you're on metformin, how long have you been taking metformin? The answer might be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, as the case might be. You've been taking metformin all that time. Have you been eating your meals? And the answer is yes. Have you been noticing any difference? The answer may be no. Okay, start taking Proagenine Plus. Still continue your medication, but continue to monitor your blood sugar. And what you should see is over time, it is going down to normal and staying there. And then maybe between you and your healthcare practitioner, you can make the decision to get off of that metformin. Because I can tell you, the metformin will lead to side effects, which will cause you to take other medication, which will lead to side effects that will cause you to take other medication. And next week, when we do that presentation, I'm going to put a slide up on the screen that will show you all of the drugs you have to take simply because you started taking metformin.
Okay, great. So as soon as the supplement starts working, you will feel the difference in your body. And
Yes, you should.
so you should feel the difference.
Yes, you should.
Okay, great. And
But
as soon
as I
as
said,
as soon as
I
it's
cannot put a time frame on it because different people respond to food in different ways.
Okay, great. And as soon as it's been reversed, you have to stop taking the drug, the medication.
Well, if your blood sugar is normal, would you need to take medication?
Okay, great. So so you have to be monitoring it and monitoring it
Yeah.
constantly. Okay, great. That is nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
While we're answering questions, I could probably just put up the next slide, which has information. So those of you who would want to get my information, you can just copy it off very quickly. And it would also have the website where you can get the proarginine. Okay, right at the bottom, you see the website, drcarty.synergyworldwide.com. Okay, you must use that link to get to my site, otherwise you'll be going to other person's site. Okay, so once you are living anywhere in the world except Canada, you can use that website, drcarty.synergyworldwide.com. But if you are living in Canada, you need to get in touch with me because I have a special link for the site in Canada. The site in Canada is different from this one that is in the US and accessible to the rest of the world. Okay? Because Canada have their own protocols. So we have to have a different site. So if anybody is listening and you are in Canada, then do not use the site that is on the screen, but get in touch with me via email, my email, lamarienhc@gmail.com, and request the link for the Canada site, and I will send that link to you. Okay, so we can go
Also,
ahead with the question.
you could uh, call out your WhatsApp phone number because everybody use WhatsApp now. We don't have
Oh
video.
yes, right. My WhatsApp number, it's 869 665 8968. I'll repeat that, 869 665 8968. And so you can contact me that way as well. Thank you very much, Brother Bradley.
Yes, and we
Any
have
other-
a new person
Yes.
with us here on Zoom. We have Sister Dini, and she has a few questions. Go ahead, Sister Dini. You feel free. Your mic is off, so you could unmute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Bradley. Good evening, Dr. Carty.
Good
So
evening.
I joined you while the presentation was going on, and I want to thank you for your presentation, your information that you're passing on. I have a question. If somebody has increased heart rate, like they walk a little bit of step, and you start hearing the palpitation of your heartbeat, is that a sign of cardiovascular problem, or is it a healthy heartbeat that is over, or
You
overactive?
you said they're hearing it.
Yes, they hear it like through, like how you hear your heartbeat. You start feeling it in the chest and to this to your jugular arc notch right here,
Yeah.
and you feel the beat, and you start hearing it in your ears.
And you said they just went up a flight of
Or-
stairs.
Yes,
That
like a
sounds like
flight
a
of stairs,
cardiovascular
or
problem.
carry a heavy thing, put it down.
Okay, yes, that sounds like a cardiovascular problem. Because that's what is happening is that the heart is trying to exert in order to get extra blood. Because
Yes.
remember, the way we are made, um, the brain sends information to
Mhm.
the heart to say we are responding to some exertion. They need more blood. So what is the heart going to do? Pump more blood to get the oxygen. Okay? Under normal circumstances, that should be very easy. But if the person is suffering from a cardiovascular problem, let's say atherosclerosis, narrowing of the artery, it means not enough blood will be going through fast enough. And so the heart has to pump harder. The heart has to do more work, you see, in order to get that blood going. Okay, and then you could have that painful sensation in the heart, which is the angina pectoris.
Okay. Wow, thank you. And also, like when heavy breathing, you hear people breathe over the phone. Is that a sign of
Yes,
cardio?
exactly. Because again, you're going now to the pulmonary circulatory system.
Yes, sir.
Because remember, there's a relationship between the pulmonary circulatory system, which is the system of blood flow from the heart to the lungs and back. And then there is the systemic circulatory system, that is the system which takes blood from the heart all around the body. Okay? Now,
Yes, sir.
um, the pulmonary system works normally, like mine is working normally, to get blood from the lungs, rich in oxygen, going to the heart pumps it around the body. Okay? Now, if I have decreased blood flow, I have a blockage somewhere, then what is going to happen is that the the message that goes from the brain um, to your respiratory system will say, look, we need more oxygen. How is the oxygen going to get there? You have to inhale that oxygen, right? And so if
Right.
the body is in distress, what is going to happen? The breathing will get heavier because you'll increase the inhalation. You see what I mean? In order to get that oxygen in. It doesn't mean it will get to the site faster because there's a blockage, but then the body is going to respond in that way, okay? Because the
Yes.
individual should not be unless there is, let us say the person just ran a mile, then you would expect that to happen. But under normal circumstances, especially if the person is at rest, then that shouldn't happen, except in cases where not only there are cardiovascular problems, but they might be extremely obese. Because if this person is extremely obese, then it means you have extra miles of blood vessels, because every pound of fat you add on, you would require more blood vessels, you see, and that increases the work on the heart and on the lungs, okay? So there could be any
Yes, sir.
number of factors that would cause, that increased or the labored breathing. But yes, it is a sign of a cardiovascular problem.
Thank you. And so can someone reverse it, or they have to go to the doctor to know what kind of cardiovascular disease they have, and then come back to the formula um, that you have to help?
Yeah, well, if you do not know that you have a problem, okay, if you're suspecting that you have a problem, yes, it would be good to check your healthcare provider. And most likely, I would suggest a heart specialist, okay, since that individual would specialize in that area, right?
Yes,
An
sir.
internist could also help, okay? But if you know
Okay.
you have the problem already, then you can just go right ahead and use the Proagenine Plus.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have Brother Milton Halls on with us. Do you have any questions, Brother Milton? Your microphone is off. If you have, you could put on your microphone and go ahead with your question and concern. Okay.
Okay.
No, yes, no more questions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to share with you tonight. I trust that Yahweh will bless you all. And as it says here, do enjoy a healthier, more satisfying life.
Yes.
That's His wish for you. That is also my wish for every one of you. And encourage some other persons. Just tell them what they missed tonight, and encourage some more persons to come and listen in on next Sunday night. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you again.
Indeed, it was wonderful. It was informative. I enjoyed this program tonight, and we thank you very much, Dr. Carty, for
You're welcome.
yes, thank you so much for such a
For
blessing
every one of you.
and
And
wonderful
encourage
program.
some other persons. Just tell them what they missed tonight, and encourage some more persons to come.
Yes, so by the grace, so we are telling you, the viewers, that we will be on every Sunday night. We have this program, Healthy Me, Wealthy Me. So to be healthy, you are wealthy. And we thank you so much for your patience. We thank you for being with us
Thank you very
tonight.
much, Dr. Carty,
And
You're welcome.
and yes, so don't forget to tell your friend to tell a friend and family to be there with us next Sunday, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Yahweh's Kingdom Lifestyle Ministry. Yahweh's Kingdom Lifestyle Ministry. You subscribe to that channel and you like this Facebook page. We thank you and we say good night, bonsoir, tout le monde. Have a blessed evening, a blessed night, and au revoir. Shalom.
Good night.